Uniform Criminal Records Accuracy Act. Criminal history records are used for employment, for loans, for housing. Virtually everything we do in society, we now have a background check. The problem is they're often highly inaccurate.
Over 65 million Americans have a criminal record of some sort. Two people having the same name happens all the time. I'll give you a personal story. A young man in Mobile, Alabama called me just 2 weeks ago, and he said, I'm trying to get a job, but I can't because the court says I've got a felony conviction. Come to find out, his name was mistakenly identified with someone who did. It cost him his job because the records were inaccurate, and he was mistakenly identified as an ex-felon. And so that's why you need an act like this. It provides more reliability and trust in the system, and two, it saves a young man like that who's really trying to make a living for himself.
50% of the records that have no disposition. It's a big number.
Well, it's a real problem. For example, I may have gotten arrested on a felony charge, but the case may have been overturned on appeal, or the case may have been reduced to a misdemeanor, and that part is never told at the end of the day. We as a society move across state lines where borders really are becoming less and less important. You've got to have some sort of uniformity so you have accurate records.
One of the things the Act does is a mistaken identity registry. If you are mistakenly identified as the wrong John Jones, and John Jones has a criminal record, now you're associated with that, you can apply to the state to have a certification that says I'm not the criminal. In Minnesota, just in a few years, we have 2,000 people who've taken advantage of that.
While people may have identical names, the fingerprint will enable whoever's looking to distinguish one from the other. And so keeping track of these biometric records is one of the advances in the legislation.
What this act is designed to do is provide the individual with remedies. So if they determine that they're record that's not accurate, this act provides a means for them to challenge the accuracy, seek correction of it, and then make sure that that correction is disseminated to the appropriate people so it doesn't perpetuate the injustice.
This statute incorporates what we like to call C&C, copy and correct. So if you were someone who has a criminal record of any kind, you have a right to get a copy of it. And then if you detect that there's an error, you have a right to get that error corrected.
People's lives are at stake. False information ruins people's lives. It prevents them from ever getting a job. It prevents them from getting a driver's license. So in order to make sure that there's trust and faith in the justice system, we need to have accurate data.
I think it's fairness. I think it's an obligation of the state governments who've created the criminal record. They have a moral obligation to make it accurate.
It's a common sense proposal, but it's not one that is too restrictive or imposing upon the states. It solves a very real problem that's going on right now. I think a lot of states are eager to find a solution to the problems that we're seeing out there.